I've got to catch in Indianapolis, so if you can be brief with your questions, I'll try and be brief with my answers. It's unusual for a member of Congress, but I'll try.
There's been a lot of speculation about you possibly running in the next race for governor. Is that something you are or might consider?
I have no plans, political or otherwise, at this point. I've got 9 months to serve the people of Indiana in the Senate. I'm going to do that to the best of my ability, and I'll make those kind of decisions after November.
What reforms would you suggest to make our government more effective?
Oh, where to begin? I'd start by trying to get the budget deficit under control. We can't keep hemorrhaging red ink the way we're doing. We've got to deal with our energy dependency. That's really harming our country, shipping way too much money to other countries for oil and that sort of thing. And we've got to focus on improving education. That really is the key to more opportunity for our citizens going forward. So we've got a full agenda.
Would you encourage or discourage your own boys from going into politics after saying you will not rerun?
Well, that's an interesting question. Look, that'll be up to them. And I would encourage them to devote their lives to helping other people in public service. And if that involves running for office, I'll help them any way I can. And I would admire that. But there are a lot of ways to help other people. We're seeing one of them here today. That's by being a teacher, an educator. You can be a physician. You can serve in the fire department, the police, the military. So I hope my boys look to help other people with their lives. But thankfully, politics is not the only way to do that.
What message would you send to your successor, Democrat or Republican?
Don't listen to what they tell you in Washington, D.C. Be yourself. Just be yourself, represent your constituents, and don't get caught up in the political games, particularly the excessive partisanship and the rigid ideology. Think like be independent-minded. I guess that's the best advice I would give. Be independent-minded. Think more like an American and a Hoosier and less like a Democrat or a Republican, a liberal or a conservative.
Why do our schools have to cut back on staff and education?
I'll pass the questions around here a little bit too, but go ahead and finish. And then.
Okay. Why do our schools have to cut back on staff and education programs for our children?
Well, we shouldn't have to do that, but as you know, most of the education at the local level in our country is funded by the state and local governments. I think it's like 95%, and so the economy has led to a drop-off in income tax and sale tax revenues for many states, which then affects the budgets for local schools. Property taxes have been used to fund local schools, but they were going up way too fast. We put a cap on that. So to answer your question directly, when the economy is weak and there's less revenue coming in, that affects everything, regrettably, including public education. So you've got to be more efficient, allocate your dollars more wisely, and then hope for the economy to turn around and there'll be more money available.
You said education is so important, but how can we reform education when there is such a crisis?
Well, I'm trying to remember if there's a Chinese symbol that challenge and opportunity are in many ways the same thing. Sometimes when the going gets tough, it forces you to rethink what you're doing and improve what you're doing because you can't afford to just keep doing the same thing. And perhaps that's the situation we face now. So we need to have high academic standards. We need to empower our classroom teachers to help our students meet those standards. We need to make aid available so our kids can go to college. There are a number of things we need to do.
Why did you decide to report health care reform?
Well, that was a tough call. It's very complicated. There are some things about it I didn't like, some things I did. I ultimately concluded that we couldn't afford to just do nothing and sit here year after year with costs going up 10, 15%, thousands of people being denied coverage because they have a pre-existing illness, people losing their coverage when they get divorced or they change jobs. So I felt we needed to try and make it better and then have an open mind to coming back and changing it and improving it each and every year. But we just couldn't sit here and do nothing.
Great, thank you all so much.
Well, you guys get one quick here, and then I...
Okay, when you announced your decision not to run again as senator, you talked about being a university president. Is this a way to get your foot in the door?
No, this had nothing to do with that. I'm flattered that Indiana State chose to name the College of Education for my family, several generations of my family, not just me. Why they chose to do that, I don't know. You'd have to ask them, but it has nothing to do with trying to put myself forward as a university president.
What do you plan to do after your tenure as U.S. Senator ends?
My wife asked me that question, and my deal is, as soon as I know, I'll tell her first. Okay? But it gets back to your first. I really have made no decisions about that. We've got 9 months of doing the best I can as a senator representing our state, and then I'll make some of those decisions about what to do from here.
Great, thank you all. real quick, Goldman Sachs today.
Are you with the student newspaper?
I am.
Good for you.
Well,
Budding
thank you.
journalist. Be nice.
I'll try. But I do have a question. I got a text this morning from MSNBC reporting that Goldman Sachs is being charged with civil fraud in connection with the financial meltdown situation and all that. Do you think that's a good step in response to all this?
Yeah, I would answer your question, but this is the first I've heard of it, so
Okay.
I literally don't know anything about it. So it's hard for me to, there were a lot of things that happened. I can't comment on the specifics, I have no idea. But there were a lot of practices that were engaged in that we now know were harmful and wrong, and those need to be changed. And whether this is among them or not, I guess a jury will ultimately decide.